here with another episode of Tee to Green with Daily Fantasy Winners. This episode, we're going to talk about the Valspar Championship. This is at Innisbrook Resort with the Copperhead course at the resort. This is in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. It's just a little bit north of St. Petersburg and Palm Harbor. It's kind of sandwiched between Lake Tarpon and the Gulf of Mexico, kind of sandwiched in that little area if you know the Tampa area well at all. This is a par 71. It tips out at 7,340 yards. With the par 71, it actually has four par 5s and 5 par 3s to get to that par 71. So it's not just the 3 par 5s. We're going 4 par 5s, 5 par 3s. This is a fairly long course for what the length is. It's a little bit misleading almost. You look at that length and don't think it's that long. It kind of is for a par 71 in the way it's designed. One of the par 3s is 195 yards. The rest of the holes are rest of the par 3s are about 215, 225 yards roughly. The par 5s have great length. There are not really any eagle holes out here, despite there being 4 par 5s. There's usually like 1 or 2. You are going to be able to only count, there's only going to be like 1 or 2 eagles on every hole, and that will very often come in a hole out. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. The strength of the field is pretty weak from what we've seen for the last few weeks. Jordan Spieth is playing in this. There are some other good players, Henrik Stenson, Patrick Reed. There are some good players in this tournament, but the overall, the depth of this tournament is not very good. There are a ton of players between, around the $7,000, $6,000, and even the upper $5,000 range. The top of this, the quality of this field is not very good, even from 12,000 all the way down through 8,000. It's not very good, even through some of the 7,000 range. It's just weak. So in any case. This is a tight golf course. It's a Florida course. It's a tight course, but it's also heavily wooded, which is a little bit unique to a Florida course. And this course actually has a little bit of elevation to it. It's not a mountain course by any means imagination, but it is. It's going to have some, a few blind shots here and there, and it's going to have a few downslope shots as well. It's not perfectly flat, just kind of an interesting little tidbit there. There is a ton of water off the tee. There are a ton of fairway bunkers, and the fairways are narrow. So this is not a long ball hitter course. This is a driving accuracy type of course. You will not see a lot of drivers hit for several of the reasons I just mentioned, and the fairway bunkers will come into play on a few holes as well. So we want... So as far as statistics go, let's just get into that right now. We do want, we're going to look at strokes gained tee to green. We're going to look at driving accuracy. We're going to look at proximity to the hole because the ball striking with the irons is going to be huge. And specifically, we're going to look at approaches from about 150 yards to 200 yards, 150 to 225 yards. That's kind of where we want the proximity to the hole to be very good at, and where players are good at this time of year and traditionally good overall. As well. And then after the statistics, of course, we want the guys playing well as of late, and we want good Florida players as well. We don't have to worry about course history quite as much here. I don't think course history, you're going to find something very strong here. And I only say that because you can, there's the traditional cut here after Friday, but the strength of this field has changed often throughout the years. So you get kind of some interesting varying results. And also just because it's heavily wooded, you get a lot of unlucky things happening to you here, between all the water hazards and it's being heavily wooded and stuff. And I don't think it's also that big of like I guess I wouldn't necessarily call it a home. It's not that big of a home course advantage essentially, it's not that big of an advantage to have a lot of history here. I just don't. So I just really would not look at course history very much here. I've been mentioning a little bit more as of late just because of the specifics of the tournaments, but the more we get on down the road here, I'm not going to be looking at course history nearly as much. I think it's, again, a little bit of an overrated concept. It just kind of depends on the tournament in itself. But, of course, good Florida players, good accurate hitters, and good iron players from 150 plus. So that's what we're going to look at. I'm just going to get right into the picks. I'm going to have the A list on here as far as this video, and then the B list will be in the forum on DailyFantasyWinners.com. Like I said, there are a ton of cheaper players in the $7,000, $6,000, $5,000 range. There are so many to pick from, you're going to have to roster a few of them. I'm going to put the whole list, the A list and the B list, on the forum. So if you are making GPP lineups or you just, for whatever reason, maybe disagree with a few of the top picks I have here as far as the, maybe $6,000 level guys, go to DailyFantasyWinners.com. We're going to have a big list of players there for you to choose from that I would particularly go through because this is a tournament where I think it's a little bit difficult because you can get some weird varying results, but it's also tougher just because we don't have it's not that high quality of a field. So this is where you really got to know what statistics and what kind of golfers you are going after, because a lot of people out there are going to be having to do extensive research this week to create some winning lineups. Okay, and also just as a reminder when you're also going through this, for the cheaper players, don't just jump on somebody because they've made like 10 of 11 cuts or something like that. Just because they made a lot of cuts, that can be very misleading. One, they could have been playing tournaments in the fall a lot of the time and been making a lot of the cuts then when it's weaker competition. Secondly, we've had a few tournaments where there haven't been a cut recently. Doral was one of them. We had the Hyundai Tournament of Champions. I think we had another one in there as well. It's not coming to me. Maybe it's just a few tournaments where we had a cut after Saturday's round. But in any case, as far as we've had a few tournaments though where there's no cut, and that counts as 1 of 1 on DraftKings. So some of these results can be definitely misleading when you're saying, oh, somebody's made like 9 of 10 cuts, when in fact, well, 4 of them were in the fall in really weak fields, and 2 of them were in tournaments that didn't have cuts. So really, at the end of the day, it's not that impressive. So really do the full-on research and don't just look at the cuts made type of thing. Okay, I'm going to read off my A-list. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, actually, just because I already told you what we're kind of looking for. And all these players I'm about to read off here really do fit that criteria that I mentioned, or at least most of the characters we're looking for. Maybe not necessarily all of them, but a good amount of them are. These are the players who have the most matches, so to speak. Okay, so starting at the top, most expensive, Henrik Stenson at $11,500. I think he's, of the players who are in this field, I think he's playing the best golf. Jordan Spieth. We can get into a conversation about Jordan another time on the forum, but Jordan obviously is the best player probably in this field, generally speaking. But right now, I like the way Stenson's playing a lot more. Jordan's putter is not hot, and he ran extremely hot last year with the putter, and his irons are not very good right now. And Jordan's really not usually that accurate of a player off the tee, actually, believe it or not. If you look into him a little bit more, so I actually really don't like. I don't see a point in paying $12,800 for Jordan Spieth here. Of course, in GPPs, you want to throw him in a little bit. I think you should, just because he's Jordan and he could win. But as far as a top play, I definitely don't think Jordan is, and pay that price. So Stenson, $11,500. Matt Kuchar at $9,800. He is Mr. Consistency. I think you're getting a great price there for Kuchar, given the strength of this field. Jason Duffner at $9,400, having a fantastic year, hitting the ball very well. Kevin Na at $9,100. This course is perfectly built for him. Bill Haas at $8,500, way too cheap, because this course definitely fits his type of game, being a little bit of a shorter, or not short course, but a more course that's built based on accuracy. Kevin Streelman at $8,200. It's not my favorite price in the world, but he fits this course perfectly. And given the other players that are available at that price, I think he's the best of the bunch. Danny Lee at $8,100. I'm going to continue to ride him. He actually, it's usually the weaker fields. He finds himself in the top 5, and it seems when it's coming down to the wire. So Danny Lee, I think, is your best pick in terms of somebody that could win the golf tournament around the $8,000 level. John Hutt, $7,700, I think, is a little bit too cheap. Ches Rive, I don't think he's going to get much ownership at $7,300. I think he'll be really good. Not many people know about him. Martin Laird at $6,900. He will probably get decent ownership, but I do like the way he fits this golf course. Camilo Villegas at $6,600. Our odds per dollar, really like it. You can check out the odds per dollar tab. There's a few actually interesting discrepancies, meaning some good plays in the odds per dollar category. But when I say discrepancy between how DraftKings has priced the players versus the sportsbook odds. So Villegas, I like that at $6,600, and his approaches from 150 plus are really good. So that's the other thing I like about him in particular. A couple other players that are on the really cheap end, and you may want to try and roster a couple of these. Remember, there is a traditional cut, so you may not want to be that aggressive with these picks. You may want to have Kuchar as your top guy, and then just fit in a few $7,000 level guys and a couple $8,000. I wouldn't blame you whatsoever. But if you do want to be a little bit more aggressive, the next 3 guys I would say that are at the bottom $6,000 level are Jerry Kelly, Brett Stegmeyer, and Jason Gore. I think those are the best of the bunch as far as the lower $6,000 level. Okay, so that is it. That's all for this week. So next week we've got Bay Hill, which is Arnie's tournament. We are off the following week, actually, not because we want to be off, but because the Accenture match plays that weekend, and I don't believe DraftKings has had anything. I don't know how you do daily fantasy with match play. So there is no tournament the following week, and then just after that, I think we're at the Shell Houston Open, and then we're at the Masters right after that. So we're only a few weeks out from the Masters, which is really exciting. Again, thank you to everybody who are watching and liking these videos. Again, of course, please remember to like and subscribe to our Twitch and YouTube pages. And then, of course, you can follow me for all my Twitter stuff on Twitter at Nick Juskewycz. And then, of course, you can follow Daily Fantasy Winners at DFantasyWinners for DailyFantasyWinners.com. All right, everyone. Good luck. Thanks.